I am an illustrator in 12-Step Recovery. I've been doing a project where I'm illustrating words taken from the original Alcoholics Anonymous big book written by Bill Wilson in the 1930s and using a Webster's dictionary from that same period of time to make sure I'm understanding his words correctly. But after I got through doing that, I noticed there were quite a number of cases in the big book where he didn't just use precise words, but he also created very vivid word pictures, I like to call them. A better word is metaphor, is one thing that stands for another thing. And right around page 64, and several places, I think, in that vicinity, he begins talking about something he calls a triumphant arch. He didn't make that up. It's a well-known architectural type of structure. But he goes to some length describing the foundation and the footing and the different blocks that make up the arch. And he calls it a spiritual structure. And there's no picture of it in the big book, nor does there need to be. But as an artist who actually did study some architecture in school, I knew what a triumphant arch was, and I just decided as a challenge to see if I could recreate exactly what he may have had in mind. It doesn't really matter if I'm right or not. I just thought I'd try. But his point, I think, is much more important than, chasing around architectural notions. He was trying to make the point that once we sort of correctly understand our real situation, we won't resentfully accept direction from a higher power. We will actually be kind of relieved, because if our picture of that higher power is of a benevolent, loving, caring, healing, forgiving, patient parent, then Bill Wilson is encouraging the readers to say, why don't you consider that possibility? Now, as to the spiritual structure, he says he is the Father, we are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. Now, I just suggest you study about triumphant arches yourself if you want to, but what's interesting to me is they are not actually a gate leading to anything. They look like a door, but they're not. They're a victory structure that's built after a war has been fought and successfully won. And it would kind of become a monument to that particular victory. So one city could have multiple triumphant arches. It's not like it's the entryway to a city, but it did have a certain architecture. And Bill Wilson was describing one single arch and one single keystone, which you can't see here because it's obscured by bright light, but a keystone is always at the top of the arch. And architecturally, it's regarded as being necessary because even though it's above a big empty space below it, because of the mechanics and physics involved, that big heavy stone is actually holding everything else secure. It's not threatening to tear the arch apart. It's actually giving the arch its strength. And it's not actually the topmost part of a triumphant arch. The keystone sits, as I said, down here above this empty space. And I tried to be true to the way a triumphant arch is actually structured. Now, I urge you to please go to 12drawings.com if you want to hear more details about what makes this triumphant arch unique. But again, this is the moment when Bill Wilson is really trying to make a point that perhaps you've disliked, been bored by, or actually been suspicious of past notions of a higher power that's working for your benefit. But now's the time to relax and accept the notion that he's actually perhaps a friendly father who's simply watching over us the way that a caring father watches over his children. And his directions are not punishments. They are, directions for how to become a better person. Be that as it may, this is the structure that Bill Wilson described. And just to make it clear, when he talks about the foundation, The foundation is below the ground, and then you have the footing, which is also below the ground, but it's right at the ground level. And then you got the various blocks, and I've numbered them 1 through 12 to mimic the steps. There's more at 12drawings.com. Thanks so much for watching.